Hello, everybody, and welcome to my new video where I want to talk about car loans today. And this is part of the Debt in the 2020s series. And so I want to talk about new thoughts on car loans. And these may be stuff that you already know, but this is my channel. I want to put it out there, gather all of my thoughts. And so hopefully you enjoy it. So, um, cars, right? If you live in the US or perhaps anywhere in the world, you have to get a car. And so, how should you approach car ownership? And who says car typically says borrowing money if you're trying to get a better car. And so, how should you approach that? Well, first of all, let me start by saying what has always been obvious to me, but may not be obvious to some. But let me start by saying this. First of all, um, if you're going to go for a gas car, which these days that's a bold bet going for a gas car these days. But I think if you go for a gas car, you must be very, very, very mindful that they are going to depreciate a lot. Um, you must be hyper aware that gas cars will depreciate. And so, in my opinion, and that is, these numbers, by the way, are 2022, 2023 numbers, i.e., with the inflation. I know there's been inflation, but with inflation, even with that, I recommend getting a car under $10,000. So if you buy a gas car, don't overpay. 10,000 is probably the maximum that you want to pay. And this is a criticism you get a lot on a lot of YouTube that talk about cars. But yes, the answer to that is yes, you can still get a decent car for under 10,000. There's plenty of decent cars. You're not gonna show off, but they're gonna be decent cars that are safe, relatively. I mean, relatively okay cars. They're not going to be Teslas, right? But they're going to be safe for gas cars for under 10K. There's plenty of them. You can do it. That's possible. And cash, in my opinion, when you go for a gas car under 10K, which to me is the only thing that makes sense if you're going to go for ownership. If you're going to go for ownership, cash is likely the best way to go for this. I don't know, you find a $7,000 used car that you typically don't buy from a dealer. You probably want to buy it from another private individual and just pay cash for it. And cash is likely the best way to go for this setup, in my humble opinion, unless you can be lucky enough and find a lender that will work with you for, I don't know, financing $6,000 or $7,000 at a very low rate. If you can find that lender, then good for you. But otherwise, I think for a lot of people, you're just gonna buy a car cash. That's a gas car. That's less than 10,000, so that much of a depreciation already happened. So now that I've put this kind of more widespread thought out there, I want to talk about perhaps less widespread ideas about cars. So first of all, if you want to get a car above 10,000, and maybe you do. So many reasons why you would. It's the second biggest consumer item. So if you want to get a car above 10,000, first of all, I recommend you get electric because electric cars will not depreciate nearly as fast as gas cars. We are getting into insane depreciation on gas cars. That's one of the reasons why I'm so worried about Ford and GM, because all these cars are going to depreciate so fast. And I'm obviously biased when we talk about electric. I believe Tesla is the best, so I'm biased on this. But actually, if you want to be perfectly objective about this, there's been some good reviews about Rivian and the Ford Mach-E. Apparently, these cars are pretty decent. But as long as it's electric, like I care more that the car is electric. Like I would get electric personally because they're not going to depreciate nearly as fast. And there's many things to remember about gas cars, but they cost less to insure, they cost less to maintain, but that's going to be less visible. They last longer, they have longer mileage, but that's going to be more of a long-term thing. The impact that you're going to see right away when you get an electric car, an electric car, is that they save you between 7 and 10 times on fuel, right? Fueling a Tesla with electric is about $7, and your gas tank may be 50. So they are much cheaper to drive, and that's a meaningful thing. Um, and a common rebuttal is, I'm not going to get an electric car. What if I drive far? What if I drive far? Well, first of all, most electric cars can handle 200 plus miles easily, between 200 and 250 for entry level. So that's going to be fine for most of your daily driving. For like 98% of your driving, you're not going to go more than 200 miles. And for those days where you go more than 200 miles, well, you either get a Tesla because they have superchargers and you can do it with a Tesla, or you just rent a gas car. For a one family trip or one road trip that you do a year, you can just rent a car for that. It's so much cheaper over the long run than buying a big vehicle. This is just my thoughts, my opinions, my beliefs. Nobody has to agree with me. I just want to put them out there for my YouTube channel. Um, and then second thought about loans, because this is the series about debt, but I think cars and debt go together. So if you must get a loan, there's two ways to approach it. So the first way is if you must get a loan, say you want to buy, I don't know, a Tesla Model S, for example, and so you need $100,000. You want to get a loan. If you get a loan, get a prime loan. Make sure you get a good loan with a good interest rate, with like 4%, or even less than 4%. So get a prime loan. Get a loan with sales, with promotions. Take advantage of what banks have to offer. Oftentimes, credit unions give you really good rates, very, very good rates. Banks also give you good rates. They're suck on, not as good as credit unions, but credit unions oftentimes give you a prime rate. I would recommend staying away from dealership loans. Dealers are notorious for using the loan part to really charge you more. So be careful about dealer loans. And I'm not saying this is not about all dealers. I'm sure some dealers provide good rates, but they typically tend to be higher. And then the question about this series is, does it make you fragile? Does it make you fragile to have a car loan? Well, what happens if you stop paying? Well, if you stop paying, typically the lender will send a company to take your car back, or you'll drive your car back. So if you stop repaying, they'll take the car back. So that's better that you buy a car that does not depreciate too much, because if you have a recourse loan and your car is taken back because you haven't paid, they may come after you for the rest of the money, right? Because they say, oh, that car is only worth X, Y, Z, and it's a recourse loan. And so they take the car back and they're like, oh, it depreciated much more than what you owe on the loan, so you're underwater on your loan, and then they can come after you for the remainder of the amount. So that makes you fragile. If you can get a loan and negotiate for a non-recourse loan, which some lenders do, that is a better idea. Because if you have a non-recourse loan, all you can do is return the car and they take the car back, and then that's it. That's the end of a transaction. So lenders typically hate non-recourse, but that's the thing you can negotiate. If you get someone who is eager enough to sell a car, you may be able to negotiate that. So non-recourse loan and anything non-recourse in general makes you less fragile. So, and again, this is not going to happen to most of us, but this is just in case you can't pay the loan. You gotta make sure that you look out for your fragility. Anyway, that's option number one. Get a prime loan. Option number two is leasing. And so first of all, before I hear people tell me, oh, leasing is not a loan. It's not a loan, sure, but theoretically, it is the same as a loan. Because you're instead of borrowing money, you're borrowing a car. But theoretically speaking, it's the equivalent of a loan. That's why on most balance sheet, the liability is lease, right? A lease is a liability on all of balance sheets. Well, that's for a reason, because they consider it a form of money that you owe, even though you haven't borrowed money. So leasing is a form of a loan, theoretically speaking. And if I discussed this a few years back, like 3 years back, I would have said, oh, leasing is always terrible. It's always bad terms. They nickel and dime you for any issue that there is with a car when you give it back. Leasing always makes a little sense. That's what I would have told you a few years back. Today, however, because we are going through a revolution in the car world, if you buy a gas car with a lease, you may get ahead. And this is crazy, but let me walk you through why I say that. Because dealers tend to overestimate today the buyback value of the car at the end of a lease period. You see, most dealers have not realized that electric cars are going to greatly, greatly, greatly depreciate the value of gas cars. And they don't put that in their calculations yet, which means that the buyback offer that they give you, that you sign when you get a lease, may be way overestimated compared to the actual value of the car. So it's easier if I walk you through an example. So what do I mean when I say they overvalue the buyback value? It's kind of a mouthful. Well, let's imagine this. How does a dealership make money on a lease? So let's say you want to lease a $30,000 brand new gas car, and let's say that would be reasonable. You would lease it for, and that would be with usually I think it's like 12,000 miles a year or something. I mean that would be something reasonable. In general, very reasonable. So you would lease it for $399 a month for 3 years, right? And the dealer would charge you $399 a month, and he would write down that the buyback value of the car is 21K. So much of that money is the anticipated depreciation by the dealer. This is what this covers. This $399 times 12 times 3 covers both the margin of the dealer and the depreciation of the car. And so the dealer writes in the contract, okay, well, I'll take the car back unless you pay me 21K. So you pre-agree to a purchase back price. The problem is that dealership confidence is very high right now, and so that creates myopia. Dealers can't see that gas cars that gas car, for example, can't see 3 years from now, and they can't see that gas car is only going to be worth 10K at the end of the lease. And so if you don't accept to buy back the car at 21K, like the dealer usually hopes that you do buy back the car. If you don't accept, then they're going to end up getting the car back from you at 10K. So the dealer is forced to buy back the car from you at 21K, theoretically speaking, which if you don't exercise the option to buy the car after 3 years. So that's a very valuable thing, because if the dealer had known that the car would lose so much value between 30K and 10K, if the dealer had known, the dealer would have charged you closer to 800 or 900 a month. The reason why the dealer monthly payment is so low is because the dealer doesn't think that the car is going to depreciate that much, but it will, because you study electric cars and you follow the market as a buyer, and you know that it will depreciate. So again, this is a very, very interesting way to do it. And so you may look for dealers that are more confident about the resale value of their brands, namely Toyota, who's like totally not in sync with the times, who is entirely not aligned with electric. You might get a very good deal on Toyota. So you gotta buy one of these confident brands who's like, oh yeah, my cars have retained value historically. Or Honda, they're like, oh, they keep their value. Well, they keep their values from 2017 to today. They've kept their value. The question is, are they going to keep their value for a 2023 model when you have to sell it back in 2026, when nobody wants a gas car anymore? Are they going to retain their value? And the answer to that is likely not. But because of overconfidence and because of myopia, you have leasing deals today that are written very, 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 very favorably to the borrower, very favorably. And a last trick, and this is a well-known one, is if you must lease also, you can try to go for a year of end of year model, because dealers try to really unload those quickly typically. So if you go for an end of year model, you may even get even more discounts. But anyways, that's for leasing, and that is a way that is also rather anti-fragile here, because you're locking in a buyback price, which is very, very interesting. It's pretty much your confidence in your calculations versus the confidence in the calculations of the dealer. Very interesting. Oh, I forgot. The downside of this, compared to buying a Tesla, the downside is that you have to go to a dealership. That's the big downside. But anyways, that's the way it is. All right. Thank you so much. This is not investment advice, just entertainment, not car advice, not advice of any kind. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to like. I appreciate if you subscribe, and please follow me on Twitter. Thank you very much, and have a great day.